Asia's second largest economy is Japan. The country, known as the land of the rising sun, has continuously been an outperforming economy. They have been responsible for some of the world's most advanced and used technologies. Everyone knows Japanese products and services from Toyota to Mitsubishi, as they have helped shape the world as we know it. Due to this, they have an economy that has outpaced and outmatched every single other Asian economy other than China. But this is bound to change. In the coming years, India will soon surpass Japan. But besides India, there is also another country that will surpass Japan: Indonesia. Indonesia is bound to become the third largest economy in all of Asia in the coming decades. In 2023, Japan's economy, as measured by the gross domestic product, GDP, by the International Monetary Fund, IMF, was set at $4.21 trillion, whereas Indonesia with only $1.37 trillion. By 2045, however, many analysts and economists, even President Joko Widodo, are projecting that Indonesia will become the fourth largest economy globally, just behind India, China, and the US. The projections see that Indonesia's GDP will be over $9.1 trillion, which will far surpass Japan's economy due to its aging population and stagnant economy. So, how will Indonesia do it? Well, it is simple. Indonesia is home to one of the world's most populous nations. The country has the most important economic indicator: people. The more people there are, the greater the potential market of goods and services, which can drive domestic demand and attract both local and international investments. By 2045, Indonesia's population is expected to reach over 309 million people. Japan, however, will shrink from 123 million people today to just 108 million by 2045. The human capital of Indonesia alone can already make the case for Indonesia's rise. However, there is still a lot of work that needs to be done to actually get there. For one, Indonesia actually needs to grow at an average pace of 5 to 6% annually. Unfortunately, not only has Indonesia failed to sustain this 5 to 6% growth annually, there are also challenges both globally and domestically that Indonesia needs to fix. Over the past decade since 2010, Indonesia has grown by 5% annually, sometimes more, sometimes less. The largest problem that Indonesia may face again is the likes of the COVID-19 pandemic. In 2020, Indonesia's GDP contracted by 2.1%, which not only set them back a year but also caused several issues to the overall government. They now possess more debt than ever before. Inflation has damaged the economy and interest rates have reached unprecedented levels. The government debt to GDP of Indonesia was only 30.6% in 2019, but it grew to over 38.71% by mid-2024. Whilst it is still low comparatively to other Asian economies, a rise in government is still going to harm a country long term. This is not small money after all. It is about 8,353 trillion Indonesian rupiah, or about 511 billion US dollars. Why is this a problem in the long-term run of Indonesia's economy? Well, that's because government debt can constrain future economic growth by limiting the government's ability to invest in critical areas such as infrastructure, education, and healthcare. When a government has high levels of debt, a significant portion of its budget must be allocated to debt servicing, paying interest on existing debt, rather than reinvesting in growth-promoting activities. Furthermore, while government debt isn't really that high, one should also not forget that Indonesia has a lot of state-owned companies that have gone into massive debt. State-owned companies are basically owned by the Indonesian government itself. They are essentially extensions of the government's economic activities, and their financial health is closely tied to the broader fiscal stability of the country. Even since Joko Widodo became president, Indonesia's fiscal status as measured by its government debt had been stable. It is less than most developing and developed nations, but the country's state-owned corporations had actually been plunged in debt since he came into office. One of Joko Widodo's most ambitious visions was infrastructure. He wanted a lot of money to plow into infrastructure. He wanted to build bridges, railways, and airports. Some of the money to fund these came directly from the government through people's taxes, but others came from state-owned enterprises who would borrow money. One of these companies is Kereta Api Indonesia, KAI, Indonesia's state-owned railway company, which has undergone significant growth and transformation over the past decade. KAI played a major role in the development and operation of new systems, including the Greater Jakarta Light Rail Transit, LRT, and the high-profile Chinese-backed high-speed rail line linking Jakarta and Bandung. Their high-speed rail project was expected to cost $6 billion initially, yet due to cost overruns it grew to over $7.2 billion. To address this cost overrun, KAI had borrowed money from the China Development Bank of nearly $543 million in loan facilities. This new foreign currency denominated debt increases KAI's financial obligations, which raises concerns about the project's long-term sustainability. The Indonesian government has also guaranteed the $543 million in new debt, effectively transferring much of the financial risk from KAI to the state. Then, in April of 2024, the railway company was reported by local news outlets that they were requesting financial support from the government to help manage the debt it incurred during the development of the Jakarta-Bandung High-Speed Rail (HSR) project. This issue is just one of the many debts that Indonesia faces, and if this is left like this, it is likely that it will harm Indonesia's overall growth in the long run. Nevertheless, even if Indonesia still has debt issues, it does not mean that it will no longer surpass Japan. As we mentioned earlier, it is simply because Indonesia is home to a population size nearly thrice that of Japan. They have too much human capital in their country. Another reason why Indonesia is set to become the fourth largest economy is its government. The Indonesian government, which was transformed by Joko Widodo, is paving the way for this to happen. They have not only implemented various reforms in infrastructure development, but they are also pushing investments into people's education, healthcare, social services, and a lot more. As a matter of fact, there are 4 pillars to the 2045 dream that Indonesia wants to achieve. The first pillar is to achieve a top ranking in global food security and global biopharmaceutical resilience. This means that Indonesia is aiming to strengthen health resilience and establish self-sufficient food security systems. This will lessen the need for food importation, and when there are any international issues that come into play, it will harm Indonesia less. The second pillar is to foster high-value industries by leveraging strategic sectors, enhancing financial services, and promoting sustainable tourism. Empower MSMEs to become globally competitive medium-sized enterprises. This will help Indonesia achieve its goal of becoming a high-income economy by 2038. By developing these high-value industries, Indonesia is setting itself up for sustained economic growth and increased global competitiveness. The third pillar is to ensure over 60% female labor force participation and a Gini coefficient below 0.3, rank in the top 20 globally in PISA scores, and achieve scores above 70 in graduate skills. Increase life expectancy to over 80 years for both men and women, reduce child mortality to fewer than 5 per 1,000 births, and decrease stunting prevalence to below 10%. Attain infrastructure quality scores above 90. What this means is that Indonesia will focus on building a more inclusive and equitable society. Finally, the fourth pillar will be an increase in renewable energy mix and become a leading carbon credit issuer. Electrify approximately 50% of vehicles, and about 25% of smallhold farmers adopt regenerative farming practices. These will not happen if the Indonesian government is incompetent or corrupt. These goals are very much dependent on the Indonesian government. But there's just one problem. It is the fact the Indonesian government has changed because of Joko Widodo's son. The next vice president of Indonesia is none other than Gibran Rakebuming Raka, who is Joko Widodo's eldest child. Why this is a problem is because of the concept known as political dynasties. This is when power is concentrated within a single family, often passed down from one generation to the next. Political dynasties can undermine democratic processes by limiting political competition and perpetrating the influence of a particular family, rather than allowing for diverse and merit-based leadership. Further, there are questions about Gibran's experience and capability to handle the immense challenges that come with high office. But anyway, do let us know what you think down in the comment section below. Thanks for watching.